While we are being served dessert, we have a very special treat for you. Benjamin Shapiro is 12 years old. He'll be accompanied by his father, David. He began training on the violin at age 5. In addition to the violin, he plays chess, loves baseball, completes in track and field. His goal is to become the first Orthodox rabbi to sit on the Supreme Court. Meaning of court will have to close at 3 o'clock on Friday. Also, he wants to be the first to give a concert at Carnegie Hall. However, before all of this, he has to be bar mitzvahed. He will play for us the theme from Schindler's List. Ladies and gentlemen, Benjamin Shapiro. Benjamin Shapiro.
Morality always beats policy. It's why Republicans lose. Right? When they argue that it's immoral for you not to be nicer to the poor, and you argue, yes, but your policies are ineffective. Okay, immoral beats ineffective in an argument any day, any day. So when it comes to purely moral issues, social issues like abortion, to get more specific, the reality is that abortion is not a complex issue. It's a very simple issue. That's either a life or it isn't. It's that simple. If it's a life, you can't kill it. If it's not a life, you can do whatever you want. It's a kidney. Right? So, and then it becomes, okay, so how do we define life? And the answer to me is you define life by the same way that you would define life if you found it on Mars, right? If you found a single-celled organism on Mars, it's a life, right? I know, as somebody who has one baby and another on the way, you know, that what's in there is not a random piece of tissue. At the very least, even if you don't believe it's a life yet, it's certainly a potential human life. And that seems to be more valuable than your convenience. And there's something nasty and cruel and degrading about the idea that you get to decide whether something is a life or not based on whether it's convenient to you or because it's in your body. By the way, this is exactly, it truly is amazing actually how history repeats itself. The argument in favor of abortion is exactly the same as the argument in favor of slavery. Exactly the same, right? You're on my land, I get to decide. It's up to me to decide whether you're a person or property. It's up to me. Right? What are you going to say? It's on my land. What are you going to do about it?
And I'm someone that believes that certainly the unborn child has rights. I believe that the mother has rights. I simply happen to be a person, and some believe that those mothers' rights deem to usurp those rights. But certainly it's not to disrespect.
In what world would any of my rights allow me to kill another human being?
Well, if you got rid of all those things, if you got rid of government involvement, Bernie Sanders would still think that something was wrong if Bill Gates is earning a lot of money and somebody at the bottom is earning none. Yeah. He sees somebody in a room with $5 and somebody with $1, and he immediately says the guy with $5 must have stolen something from the guy with $1. Whereas I say I have no evidence of that until you show me that evidence. Maybe the guy with $5 produced more than the guy with $1. Here's the truth. The left is more dangerous than ISIS. The reason the left is more dangerous than ISIS is because ISIS can't succeed without their appeasement and help. Right? ISIS, President Obama was wrong when he labeled them the JV team because he promptly made them the non-JV team. Right? The fact is that the left is behind the rise of ISIS. Right? It doesn't matter. They can't destroy us without the left helping them along. They can't. They can't without the left pretending radical Islam doesn't exist or releasing transcripts of jihadist phone calls with the religion and Allah omitted. Right? They can't destroy us without Obama removing troops from Iraq and slashing the military, or Hillary Clinton declaring war in Libya and then leaving Americans to die in Benghazi because she's a vicious pile of nastiness piled 5'7" high. Right? The fact is that the left, if you're not fighting the left, you're doing it wrong. So if we say that ISIS is our worst enemy, that's not true. Leftism is our worst enemy because they're the ones who are going to allow ISIS to win. On the gun control debate, they keep trotting out children as though we should be taking policy prescriptions from 7-year-olds. You know, it used to be in this country that when a president of the United States said, I'm dealing with this issue because, for example, my 13-year-old daughter cares about nuclear disarmament, we laughed at them. We laughed them out of the public sphere. Jimmy Carter comes to mind. When President Obama walks out there with a bunch of 7-year-olds and says, I'm doing it because these 7-year-olds, they care about gun control, give me a break. I mean, if we're taking our policy prescriptions from kids who can't spell either policy or prescription, we have a problem.
Earlier tonight, you said that Asians are the most prosperous ethnicity in America. By what metric are they by
income?
Really?
Yes.
What source?
Well, I mean, that was true as of the census tract from 2010.
Yeah. According to what source do they have the highest income?
Census.gov.
Thank you. And also, you said earlier that there's a poll that shows that black people think black people are racist.
Rasmussen poll 2013.
Thank you very much.
You know, honestly, Pierce, you've kind of been a bully on this issue because what you do, and I've seen it repeatedly on your show, I watch your show, and I've seen it repeatedly, what you tend to do is you tend to demonize people who differ from you politically by standing on the graves of the children of Sandy Hook, saying they don't seem to care enough about the dead kids. If they cared more about the dead kids, they would agree with you on policy. I think we can have a rational political conversation about balancing rights and risks and rewards of all of these different policies, but I don't think that what we need to do is demonize people on the other side as being unfeeling about what happened in Sandy Hook.
How dare you accuse me of standing on the graves of the children that died there? How dare you?
I've seen you do it repeatedly, Pierce.
Like I say, how dare you?
Well, I mean, you can keep saying that, but you've done it repeatedly. What you do, and I've seen you do it on the program, is you keep saying to folks that if they disagree with you politically, then somehow this is a violation of what happened in Sandy Hook. And you have yet, I'd really like to hear your policy prescriptions for what we should do about guns. Because you say that you respect the Second Amendment, and, you know, I brought this here for you so that you can read it. It's the Constitution. And I would really like for you to explain to me what you would do about guns that would have prevented what happened in Sandy Hook.
Given that there is unconscious bias, how does white privilege...
So number one, so when I speak about white privilege... Yes, so when I speak about white privilege, I'm speaking specifically about behavior. Okay, there have been no studies, and really I've looked at these studies, the connection between what they call implicit bias, this is their favorite phrase now, implicit bias, unconscious bias, and biased behavior has yet to be proven at any level that is even remotely necessary to be used in, for example, a courtroom, which is why it's never been used in a courtroom. It is also true that there is no way, there really isn't, there's been no proven way to alleviate what they call unconscious bias, which means that we're ghost hunting. So what I would suggest is that if there is unconscious bias, and I'll acknowledge the possibility or the reality of unconscious bias, if there is, then I need you to I don't care about what's in people's heads so much as what they do. So if you point me to a racist behavior, don't worry, I'll let you respond. If you point me to a racist behavior, I'm happy to stand alongside you and protest it. What I can't do is protest about things in people's head that I don't know about because I'm not a mind reader.
Okay, so that's a really interesting response, and to that I have two questions. Firstly, what I've heard you say that this is something that, you know, the way people think doesn't affect their behavior. So that's the first thing you've said. So I'm really curious if you can kind of give me another example of